Tiếp theo, xin trân trọng kính mời quý vị tiếp tục tham gia vào phần thứ tư, panel cuối cùng của ngày hôm nay. Đó là công nghệ giao vận tại ASEAN. Xin được trân trọng giới thiệu và kính mời lên sân khấu ông Đoàn Lê Minh Trí, quản lý đầu tư cấp cao quỹ Vinacapital Ventures, điều hành phiên thảo luận công nghệ giao vận tại ASEAN. Mr. Đoàn Lê Minh Trí, Senior Investment Manager, Vinacapital Ventures, Moderator. Cùng với các diễn giả, ông Đỗ Xuân Quang, Phó Tổng Giám đốc kiêm Tổng Giám đốc điều hành công ty cổ phần VietJet Air Cargo. Mr. Đỗ Xuân Quang, CEO VietJet Air Cargo. Bà Trần Thu Trang, Phó Giám đốc Vinacapital Group. Miss Trần Thu Trang, Vice President, Vinacapital Group. Ông Changwen Lai, đồng sáng lập, giám đốc điều hành Ninjavan. Mr. Changwen Lai, Co-founder Ninjavan. Ông Phil Opamuratawongse, đồng sáng lập Shipper. Mr. Phil Opamuratawongse, Co-founder of Shipper.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, my pleasure today to moderating the logistic panel. So, the purpose we will give everyone the general pictures of the current landscape of the sectors, as well as we go deep into what is the existing value chain and how technology startup can come in and create values. So, we have here all the panelists are industry experts, innovators, operators, and investors actively participate across the sector. So they are at the best position to know where is the gold mine and share more on their success story. So we welcome and Đỗ Xuân Quang, the CEO of VietJet Air Cargo. Hi, Phil, Chang, and Changwen. You hear me?
Yep.
Yep, very well.
All right. So
Yeah.
start. So, anh Quang, can you help to really summarize on the overall sector, especially on the e-logistic development and major group of participations in Vietnam?
Thank you, Mr. T. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Vietnam is one of the fastest growing market e-commerce in Southeast Asia, which is behind Indonesia. So the market size for the e-commerce 3 years ago reached to the 6.2 billion US dollar. And we are forecasting in the next 5 years, e-commerce market in Vietnam will be reach to the more than 10 billion US dollar, 10 billion US dollars. And the development of the e-commerce and development of the informative technology to impetus the e-logistic Vietnam to develop it very fastly. So for the e-commerce, e-logistic market in Vietnam, now the market size 3 years ago, we just only won more than 100 million US dollar. And now, this year we reached to the 250 million US dollar. And the growth rate for every year, we are around 42% every year, especially in 2020, the growth rate of the e-logistic Vietnam reached to the 81% compared with the last year. The reason is because of the COVID-19 pandemic to create more the online shopping and online delivery as well. So we believe that in the very near future, e-logistic Vietnam will reach to the billion US dollar very, very fastly. So in the e-logistics can be categorized in the two groups then. The first group is in-house group, consider as for example, like a B2C group, like a Lazada, like a Tiki, where they invest in a lot of investment in the facility and the warehousing system and the fleet of shipper and fleet of vans. And the second group is the 3PL, third-party logistics. This is a freight forwarder and logistics service provider. So the e-logistics and the group 1 or 2, like in-house platform, like Lazada and Tiki, and 3PL, and so growing very fastly in recent year. And this is affected by the e-commerce and information technology development in Vietnam. Yeah. So regarding the logistic industry contribution to the national GDP, so I also would like to inform you the good news, very good news for Vietnam. We are ranking now number 39 in the world by Logistic Index Performance, LPI, ranking by the World Bank. 7 years ago, we are number 53. And 3 years ago, our ranking is 48. And now, Vietnam Logistic Performance Index, we are 39 position in 150 countries, World Bank study and research. It's very, very good news, and we are very proud about this. So the cost for logistics industry and contribution to the GDP, now currently 10% of logistic revenue contribution to the GDP national economy. And we forecasting in the next 5 years, the contribution to the GDP should be 15%. So as the logistic man, I'm very proud that and believe that the logistics industry will create more opportunity for investment and startups. Yeah. Thank you.
So I agree with Quang that inclusive growth of e-commerce like reshaping the logistic landscape. So the next question to Chang, the principle of big capital. So as an investor, how you evaluate the sector and its prospect? So for example, like total addressable market size, Vietnam versus other neighboring country, pivot, cross-sell opportunities, and the strengths and weakness of like Vietnamese logistics startups.
Great, thank you, Chi. Great pleasure to be here today, although I have to join virtually. I represent Vinacapital. We are a global venture capital firm currently managing about 1.5 billion across the US and Asia. And back to your question, I think first and foremost, just want to highlight the key growth drivers from our perspective of the logistics industry in Southeast Asia. And these are very much, number one, e-commerce growth, as very much highlighted by Mr. Quang earlier, where e-commerce logistics is a key enabler. And number two, another driver is a growing international trade, where Southeast Asia as an economy bloc is increasingly taking a larger share of global trade. Number three is growing domestic consumption, which boosts domestic trade. And all of these are happening on the back of improving logistics and infrastructure, logistics and transportation infrastructure. So with that in mind, as a venture capital investment firm, very much our investment thesis in logistics are centered on a few things. Number one is e-commerce logistics. Last mile e-commerce logistics is a key enabler, and we were very proud to be among the early institutional investors in Changwen startup, Ninjavan, which has grown tremendously from 15,000 parcels a day 4 years ago when we invested to about just under 2 million parcels a day today. E-commerce logistics is unfortunately a very competitive and mature space today, and therefore opportunity to invest may not be plenty, but we think for even the incumbents like Ninjavan, the potential is still huge, just given the growth trajectory of e-commerce in the region, expected to triple in the next 5 years to some 170 billion by 2025. And that is just B2C. It's also noteworthy that B2B e-commerce, from our perspective, is at an inflection point of growth. And here, basically, the thesis is that startups are looking to digitize the highly fragmented and somewhat inefficient general trade, which consists of tens of millions of micro SME and household businesses. And this group of MSMEs do make up a big chunk of total retail in Vietnam, maybe 80-90% still, and more than 60% GDP in Indonesia, for example. And that B2B e-commerce growth will further add on to the e-commerce volume, which will benefit the logistics players in this space. Other potential under-tapped segment could be cross-border e-commerce. And looking beyond e-commerce logistics, we see potential for new disruptive models, such as a digital marketplace, particularly digital truck brokerage, given the road freight accounting for still 70-80% of freight volume in Vietnam and Indonesia alike. And fundamentally, these marketplaces are asset-like model that leverage technology, could be through even mobile apps, to connect, to create seamless network of connecting thousands of small truck carriers with shippers and enabling automated matching of carriers' available truck capacity with the shippers, right? And this platform, therefore, leveraging technology, offer very strong value proposition to both the shippers and the carriers who each face different multiple pain points in the traditional brokerage model. On the shipper side, you have issues with getting orders, load orders fulfilled on time, poor visibility of where the trucks actually are, poor control of quality with the vendors. And on the carrier side, it's fragmented market, and therefore utilization of truck is low, multiple brokerage level, leading to opaque pricing, etc., etc. And we invested in Black Buck in India on this same thesis, and we see that same industry pattern playing out in Southeast Asia with a number of startups in this space having raising a significant funding in the recent years. In Vietnam, we have Ninjavan, which I believe, Chi, you invested in Ninjavan. So,
thank you.
Right. And Black Buck, which you invested in India, is actually not just a digital truck brokerage platform, a marketplace. It actually has morphed into a platform that offer beyond just, a load matching service, but also fuels, tolls, top up, financing, etc. to carriers, which allow them to earn a commission from the service partners. And this is interesting because with technology, we see tech startup and logistics included, to very often be able to expand beyond the immediate business model to morph into a platform play through partnerships. And I think the last area that we should just want to highlight in terms of our focus with, and where we're looking for opportunities in logistic tech is actually B2B enterprise SaaS solutions serving this logistics vertical, industry vertical. And here, innovation and technology is increasingly becoming key to not just the 3PLs, but also the shippers, so the customer side. One key sort of use case there is we're seeing many SaaS solutions trying to connect the supply chain from retailer store, retailer warehouse, distribution hubs to factory, and thereby improve visibility and connectivity across the supply chain. And the benefits of that are multifold. It leads to better predictive demand and supply, reducing inventory costs for manufacturers, improving order performance and customer satisfaction on the e-commerce side. Other example of use case could be track and trace, fleet management, warehouse automation, and management. And we have seen examples of SaaS companies in Asia being able to scale to significant level of revenue, ARR. And we think Southeast Asia should see more such startup in the future. Sorry for a bit long-winded answer, but hopefully that answered your question.
All right, thank you, Chang. So the next question to Changwen. So Changwen, from your experience, what kind of technology trend get the most interest from the government and corporation across the regions, as well as specifically how other regional startups disrupt the logistics sector, which is currently dominated by all the traditional 3PLs?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here. So appreciate everyone in tuning into this as well. So it's quite interesting when you talk about technology, because over the last 6 years when we started the business till now, we have always been thinking about which single technology or tool can really differentiate the market and help us grow. And in the last 6 months, what we have seen after COVID-19 broke out, when e-commerce purchasing increased, was probably the clearest indication of what technology can do to help the entire digital economy move forward, and e-commerce logistics is a very strong enabler. So we don't view ourselves as being the key of digital economy. It is the ride sharing, it is e-commerce, it's all our partners who are really leading the race in moving everyone towards a digital economy. We view ourselves as a very simple enabler, allowing all the piping, the infrastructures to go ahead. So what we have seen is a very clear indication that it is not about having some magical feature. It is not about having some special tool to deliver faster. What we have seen as the most important in this difficult period was to ensure that the reliability of getting your parcel is as complete as possible. So what do I mean by this? When we saw a lot of new customers start buying online, whether it's in Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, all across the region, what we have seen is that there are a lot of new e-commerce shoppers or people buying online have started buying it more frequently. And we asked them what the difference was, obviously because they were not able to go to the stores at a certain point in time. But the reality was they were always worried that when they shop online, the parcels may not arrive reliably. So the central core tenet of what we look towards in building technology and working with governments and building the entire digital infrastructure of a lot of the different countries we operate in is really about how can we be the most reliable service end to end. How can our clients integrate with our systems, interface easily for the orders to flow in? How can we control our entire infrastructure, our entire network, comprising tens of thousands of vehicles on the road, and make sure that every one of them follows the correct SLA timing, follows the right SOPs, and motivates them the right way to provide a good quality service. So I know all these sound simple. There's no nice technology element to all of it, but technology runs very deep in making sure that we are able to do and complete a service with the highest quality possible. So it's not something we believe we can do by just being a digital layer. It is a combination of a strong digital layer and very strong operational control and very deep understanding of how our employees behave on the ground. And when you put all of these together, we then layer another technology layer above to make sure that whenever a problem occurs, and we call these exceptions, we have a full technology suite to ensure that fantastic service recovery always happens. So I think it is impossible that when you have millions of parcels going out every day, that all of them will be perfect. There will be issues. I think that's reality. In a business run by humans, mistakes will happen. But how can we make sure that when an unhappy event happens, when an unhappy customer occurs, how can we solve that problem and make him happy again? I'm sure many of you had experiences when parcels delayed or lost, and it's extremely frustrating because you talk to the 3PL, you talk to the e-commerce provider, and it never gets solved. Huge problem there. So we believe that this is the main focus, and a lot of the technology we deploy is to build the right level of accountability and granularity all the way down to either a sorter in the station in the furthest regions of Sapa or in our cross-dock centers in Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh. How do we build the level of granularity and accountability all the way down to the tens of thousands of employees we have? So I'm afraid there's no single technology, but it's really a focus on making sure that we are extremely reliable and we make the unhappy customers happy. So I think that's primarily how we want to work with a lot of the partners and governments across the region to make sure that we are extremely stable and reliable so that you can build more digital economy initiatives on top of such infrastructures. I hope that helped with the explanation.
Thank you, Changwen. So as you mentioned, like the two key success factors for technology logistics startup is like the operation know-how and superiority in technology. So Phil, can you elaborate more from your view, especially for the sector you participated in, last mile delivery?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to share our perspective. Just a quick introduction ourselves. Shipper is a tech-enabled fulfillment provider for the internet economy in Indonesia. I think over the last 3 quarters, what we've seen is, what we continue to see is a rise in online retail. And with this increasing demand in online retail, we've seen an increase in need for different types of enablers, including logistics providers, 3PLs like Ninja, and including fulfillment providers like ourselves. I think 3 key opportunities that we've seen over the last 3 quarters. One is the opportunity is still very huge. We're barely scratching the surface. I think many people don't see the next generation of e-commerce companies, including B2B, verticalized, direct-to-consumer brands that are coming, and they're coming extremely fast. Some of these medium-sized growth stage companies are some of our best clients, and we're seeing them grow at a clip that we haven't seen before. And with this growth, there's a need to continue to reimagine the entire supply chain and how traditional supply chain is not great for this online economy. So the way we view the world is, how do you layer a technology on top of the physical world to give merchants more control over their inventory? And we believe the fulfillment center and their inventory management is the key to that. So for us, what we help our customers enable is, for us, 2/3 of our customers see a 30-day sell-through rate, which means they're holding their inventories for less than 30 days, versus most other online merchants are doing 45, 50 days, and even close to 60 days in some cases. And we see this as a critical step to helping them to reduce their logistics costs. Second is, how do you enable them to have a large network of fulfillment centers and properly help them design their fulfillment network, which would help them to reduce their logistics costs, especially that last mile delivery component. So those are the two key problems that we're solving to help our customers enable.
Thank you, Phil. So we are almost running out of time, so I just want to summarize some key takeaway to wrap up. So basically, logistic costs account for around 25% of Vietnam GDP, among the biggest in the regions, and still growing at the CAGR of 15%. So this is very fragmented market with the participation of over 300,000 enterprise registered within the logistic field, and with the average charter capital register at 10 billion Vietnam dong. So over the last few years, many 3PL startups had entered the market to accommodate the explosive growth of e-commerce. So they utilize the technology-focused approach and having a massive financial support from investors. Logistics startup trying to grow as fast as possible, and they willing to utilize their funding to develop the technologies platform to give values to their corporate clients and end users, and in exchange for gaining the market share from traditional players. So that's all for the panel. So if you have any questions, we can reach out later to our emails.
Well, thank you. Thank you.